We're going live. Uh-oh, an error on Facebook. This is usually temporary. Okay. Wait a moment, then try again. So we're already live um on YouTube. It says we're live there.
Okay.
Okay, so we're live in both places. Very good, very good. Hello,
Wonderful.
and welcome to Dr. Sabrina Live. And yes, I am Dr. Sabrina. And yes, we are live. And um, I'm very excited tonight because I feel real official. I feel real official when I have an officer on the line with me. Oh my God, I am feeling very official. But one of the things that I wanted to do this month, October, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I wanted to talk about domestic violence in a way that sometimes we don't give attention to. So the first week we had domestic violence happens to men too, and we had Linda Gardner on, and she was amazing because she has an organization called Jerry's World where she works with men who have
Mhm.
been in a domestic violence situation. And then last week we talked about teens and domestic violence. And oh my goodness, I had some facts that just kind of blew my hair back. I don't have a wig, so it blew my hair back because I didn't even realize that children as young as 13 are experiencing domestic violence, and so they really need to train. And one of the things that she said, Miss Audrey Watkins from over at Alternatives for Girls was on with me last week. She says, if you're a parent and you feel like your child may be experiencing domestic violence, do not attack the other person. Do not attack
Mhm.
the other person because that attack may draw the child or the teen closer to the other person than they will to you. So you absolutely want to make sure that there's open communication. And so this week,
Mhm.
we are talking about domestic violence within the LGBTQ community because we don't hear about it. We don't hear about it. We don't talk about it. And tonight we're going to shine a light on it. And so I have with me Officer Dani Woods, and she is with the Detroit Police Department, and she is the liaison to that community. And so I am extremely excited to have you with me, Dani, but I'm going to allow you to just take a moment and introduce yourself. Tell the people what you want them to know about you and what your role is in the police department.
Okay. Well, first, good evening, and thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you um, allowing for your platform to share in this very important subject matter. So, I am the LGBT liaison for the Detroit Police Department. And what that means or what that role entails is pretty much being the bridge between the LGBTQ community and law enforcement. And the funny thing is, it's not just limited to Detroit, although that is who I work for. I kind of go all over and kind of service the state, so it's really
Really?
rewarding. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I get called all over. And yeah, yeah. I mean, called Bay City, Holland, Michigan. I didn't even know we had a Holland until they reached out, just all over Michigan. And even, in other states, I'll get calls regarding just advice or, hey, how do we set up a training? What do we do? So, yeah, kind of busy there a little bit. But yeah,
And
I serve as the bridge.
so how long have you been an officer?
Oh, 20 years. It doesn't look like it, does it?
It's not, the years have been kind, my sister. They have
You
been
know
kind.
what?
You do not look like it.
I started as a young pup on this job, and I have been fortunate to have a very blessed career. I have worked some very elite units and have done some very good police work, which kind of landed me into the position that I am now. So, yep, 20 years and some change.
Wow. Well, you look good, sister. You look good. And so
Thank you. Thank you very
what
much.
what happened that you were targeted to work with this particular community?
So it's very funny that this is what we're talking about, and it kind of stems from an incident that occurred. I was working patrol at the Ninth Precinct, which is on the far side of East Detroit. Uh, and my partner and I, and it wasn't my regular partner, but my partner and I were responding to a family trouble disturbance run.
Okay.
And as we were pulling up on the scene, uh, there were two females out in the yard going at it blow for blow. The only thing really that was missing was probably a boxing ring or a referee. Like they were really going at it. And one of the females identified or presented more masculine than the other.
Okay.
And so my partner leans over to me and says, I wonder which one is the man, which I thought was very distasteful. And so, knowing that we had to handle this situation because they're going at it, we definitely took care of our business. But then I had a very, very candid conversation with him in the car on the way back to the station. And needless to say, we didn't work together the rest of that day. But I went into my commander's office and I'm like, hey, I know we have community relations, but we don't have anyone for the gay community. And this was probably in the early 2000s. And
Okay.
so, uh, he looked, he said, well, community, we serve everyone. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't have anyone for the gay community. And so he said, well, let me think on it. And so, I would go back and check in periodically and to no avail, and it was still very taboo at the time. And so I kind of just threw the towel in on it, because I didn't think that it was gonna go anywhere. And so, funny thing, maybe about 4 or 5 years later, I was working on a task force with the Wayne County Sheriffs, and I get a phone call from the then commander, who is now the chief, not now currently, but at the time, the chief of police. And he says, hey, and I'm like, hey, why is the chief calling me? You get a call from the chief of police, what's going on? And so he says, hey, I just came from this great training in Atlanta, and they have this LGBT liaison, and I think you would be the perfect person for it.
Wow.
I said, oh, really? Isn't that what I asked you a few? And he's like, yeah, 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 yeah. But and so from there, uh I kind of really didn't even know like what my role would be, what it would entail, what I would have to do, because one, I am part of the community, married to my wife of 14 years. And so who is also, thank you. So, being connected, I was kind of already in. However, I was connected with the people I knew, not with the community as a whole. And so, I was always helping out anyway, but still, there was no specific guidelines on what I was supposed to do. And so, because of some administrative changes and some setbacks, it kind of didn't go anywhere. We did work on a few things, which we developed policy to not only protect LGBTQ community members, but also departmental members and civilians that identify as the same, and also to hold officers accountable for violations, and so, or violations of that policy. So a lot of us sat down and drafted that, and we included community members to give their input, the activists and the advocates, and also our law department, our planning department, city council. Like, it was a big to do developing this policy. And so, like I said, there was some administrative changes and some setbacks. And so when Chief Craig became chief here in 2013, one of his first orders of business was, you got to have a liaison. And they said, oh, we have one. They're calling. Where is she? Where is she? I was doing surveillance on a drug house when they called me.
Oh my God.
And they're like, you need to come over here. The chief is looking for you. And I'm like, okay, I got to break away discreetly because I don't want to burn my undercover car. But I get there, and just to show you how things are in such divine order, the task force was disbanded. I came back to work for Detroit in the major crimes unit. And then again, there was some administrative changes. And one of my favorite bosses at the time, he was the assistant chief, Stephen DeLunt. He comes downstairs on the fifth floor and says, "Hey, this thing you're doing, can you do what you're doing from down here up there?" And I go, "What do you mean?" "You're getting transferred. You're going upstairs to the chief's office." I'm like, "Oh my God. Do I have a say so?" "No, no, this is what you're going to do." And I sat down with the chief, and he said, "Your role is to be available to the community. I want you to call this person and this person and find out what it is that they do and build on that." Okay. So needless to say, I was terrified, honestly, because there's no blueprint. There's no go by, it's just like, okay, call these people. And so I began making those calls. But the only thing that people could tell me about was pride. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay, that's June. That's great. So what happens July through May?
Right. Right.
What happens the rest of the year? Oh, well, go to different functions and, just really try and be visible. And I'm like, and that's a whole job? I don't think so. And so I went to a few community meetings because I have to, kind of put myself out there, and just inquiring through different community members, what do you want from your police department? What do you expect from your police department? How do you feel even interacting with your police department? And I don't even think I need to say, but the relationship was almost non-existent. Um, and not just non-existent, it was very estranged, big time. There was no trust, there was no respect, there was no nothing. Because here it is, you have this marginalized community that just doesn't have anyone to represent them, or doesn't feel like law enforcement of all people even care about them, let alone what's going on with them. And so I had to work really hard, attend a lot of meetings and events, and really let the people know that I was serious about my role and serious about what the department was trying to do to create this change. And so one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest responses I got from the community was, the police don't understand us. They talk to us like we're less than human. So we need some training.
Yes.
And so I partnered with, I'm not going to say the organization, but I partnered with one of the local organizations, and we decided we were going to do a dual training. And I said, okay, you guys handle the cultural stuff. I'll translate it into blue language, right? And relay it. Yeah, and relay it to my cohort. And then whatever they have, I'll just play the middleman. And that was probably one of the worst training sessions I have ever been in.
What made it bad?
The instructors, they meant well. So they did not do, it wasn't a disservice. It was in the presentation of the information.
Okay.
To law enforcement. And it was more of you need to do this. This is how you need to act. This is what you got. And it was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Oh no.
Because it's a difference in talking to people and at people.
Yes.
And so after that, it was like, oh my gosh, I came home and I was like, Okay, so that did not go so well. I don't know if anybody learned anything, and I don't know what to do. And so my wife says, "Well, why don't you just make your own?" And I
Ah,
was like, "Oh,
it makes sense.
I guess I could." But again, I was terrified because I'm no instructor. I don't know what to do. So I took some training courses and just in trying to develop uh, how to deliver,
To deliver
and
to
yeah,
learners and things of that nature. Yeah, yeah.
all of that. And
Other
um,
stuff I do on a regular. So.
well, it definitely panned out because I put a lot of things um, together and included some community components, of some of their wants and even what the police department needs from, our LGBTQ citizens, and submitted it to the state of Michigan, and it was approved. And so it is a state certified training. And
Oh my
Detroit,
God, I love that.
Detroit is the only law enforcement agency in Michigan that has that. And it's not just a blurb, it's literally we have a 2 hour block, a 4 hour block, and an 8 hour block of training regarding LGBT sensitivity, competency, and awareness.
I love it.
So that was huge. And so we started factoring it into the classroom sessions. So all of the new recruits have
Have
to
to do
take this training. And
good.
then for our active officers, it's available as in service. And so every month, every unit in the department has a training day. And more often than not, I'm called to participate to give this training. So it's definitely becoming a big thing, and it's even spreading to other departments. Hey, how do we get this here? How do we do that? Can you please send me your training so we can try and, or can you come here and train? So it's really becoming a thing. So that's kind of how I got to be where I am right
Absolutely
here.
love it. And let me say this to you, Danny, is that um, all of us, no matter what we're doing, had a first day.
Yeah.
Everybody. It was a day that you had never done it before. You was like, I don't know. And so that anxiety and that angst that goes with preparation and whether it's going to be good or not, you just got to take the leap. And so I'm so happy that you took the
Thank
leap.
you. Yeah.
Let me ask this question.
Yes.
Because one of the things that I really heard and that really resonated for me in your story was you talked about that partner that you had and the
Mhm.
partner making the statement of
Mhm.
which one is the dude, which one is the
Yeah.
guy,
Mhm.
and I think that sometimes, we get into our groups and we say little things and we think, and he
Mhm.
probably felt like he felt very comfortable saying what he said to you. And a
Well,
lot of people feel very comfortable flippantly saying negative things about different groups of people, whether that be white people, whether that be big people, small people, handicapped people, anything that has to do with difference. And
mhm.
so that's why I really wanted to horn in on this particular topic and this particular group, because I know that the LGBT community is suffering just like everybody else with the pandemic and with
Mhm.
the rising numbers of domestic violence incidents, because now people are together more than they ever have been. So it might have
Mhm.
been that you yelled at me, but now you in my face too much. I'm about to clock you. So I really, really appreciate that you're doing this. And so, what has been one of the biggest challenges for you as far as working with your blue colleagues?
I'm sorry, the last part I didn't hear. What has been the
What has
biggest challenge?
working with your blue colleagues, the other fellow officers?
Um, I think just kind of getting them to understand the culture of the community as a whole.
Okay.
There's a age old cliche, people fear what they don't understand. And when you don't understand something, you just kind of shy away from it. And I think that now that they're beginning to understand a bit more of the culture and interacting with people, right? Because we're all just people, right? No matter your orientation, identity, we're people. Um, I think that they feel a bit more comfortable in the interaction. Uh, Now, if I were to flip that, one of my biggest challenges with community is actually the reporting of crimes.
Okay.
And so I pulled just a few stats.
Yes.
And so from 2018 till now, there have been reported 53 assault and battery or felonious assault domestic violence incidents.
Okay.
Of these 53, 28 involved weapons. And
Okay.
so we have this thing, right, when it comes to domestic and intimate partner violence. And it was funny that you mentioned, not funny, haha, but funny that you mentioned the teens, because in my first relationship with a female, I was physically abused and didn't even realize it was abuse. You know, it's like out of the blue one day, I said something because I do have a very slick mouth. And I said something, and next thing I know, kapop. I'm like, whoa, what the? And
And how old
so
were you?
I believe I was 15.
Okay.
I'm 14 or 15 because I was a grade ahead of myself. So all of that, the age thing kind of is a blur for me.
Yeah.
Yep. But I was 14 or 15. And so my natural reaction was somebody hit you
Hit
hit
them
them
back.
back.
Mm-hmm.
And so this became a thing. She say something I don't like, then whop, I say something she don't like, whop. And then I saw too another female that she dated prior to me in school, and they would fight all the time. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I was at an all-girls school, so there's no boys to fuss over. This is girls fighting girls over girls. And
Mm-hmm.
I just could not, I'm like, what is going on here? And, I didn't tell my mother, because I just thought that was the reaction you have. And so it
Can I
wasn't
ask?
until I was an adult. Yes.
Can I
Yes,
ask a
go
question?
for it.
Do you feel like the reason that you didn't share with your mother, or that it was just the norm because it was what you saw in the school and it was all girls, that maybe that the relationships between male and females didn't necessarily have that?
You know what? I don't even think that I gave it that much thought, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it was just more so she didn't like what I had to say, and that was her reaction. And I took that on from her. So if she did something that was all the way, left field for me, then here I come.
You acted like she did.
Acted like she did, because if that's what you give out, then that's what I was giving back. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized, whoa, I'm sitting up here in this relationship as a kid fighting, fighting. This is domestic violence. And I didn't even realize it. And just it was a mess. And so I think that a lot of times people don't understand that in these same sex couples, uh, the percentages are just as high,
If not higher.
if not higher. So, like I said, I pulled some stats.
Okay.
So 43.8 lesbian women and 61.1 bisexual women experience rape, physical violence, and or stalking in comparison to 35% of straight women. Then you take it a step further, 26% of gay men and 37.3% of bi men, same thing, in comparison to 29% of straight men. Then you take it a step further, 26% of men in the same sex relationships call the police, but only after the violence was less than lethal. So it had to get that bad for a man to say, hey, okay, this is too much.
Well, that I think
And
both on the heterosexual side and the same-sex side, because most heterosexual men aren't going to report either. That was our
yep,
first week that we had that discussion, and because a lot of times when you even say men and domestic violence, people go, "What?"
yeah,
My son, when we did the show, he was listening to it, and he had some of his friends listen, and one of his
hmm,
friends says, "Man, I ain't never thought a man could be abused by a woman. I never thought a man could be raped by a woman." And
yeah,
yes, and yes, it you
yeah,
know it can happen from a woman, but then absolutely when you're in same-sex relationships, that it is an issue.
yep.
And
And then
so,
we can't leave out our trans men and
trans,
women either.
yeah,
And that they suffer even greater risk of intimate partner violence, um, on so many levels, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, attack on their identity. The numbers are even greater, and they don't report hardly ever,
and
hardly ever.
have you seen? And I know I've been watching things on TV because we're at home, so
Hmm.
we watch everything on TV. But do you
Hmm.
watch Pose? Have you watched that?
Yes, I
And
watch everything.
then P Valley.
Yes.
So in P Valley, Uncle Clifford is having
Hmm.
this, and he's not. Would he be considered a trans person?
Well, I don't know because Uncle Clifford has never said I'm a woman. You know what I mean? He's never
Right.
verbalized that,
Identify.
but
He
he
just
does uh answer to both pronouns, although most people that interact with him on the show utilize female pronouns for him. So I don't know. Maybe we need to write them and say, hey, can we get some clarification on Uncle Clifford's pronouns?
yes, because Uncle Clifford. Now, one of the things that I noticed in the show about him is that he's like falling in love with this guy who's quote unquote a straight guy,
Hmm.
and which they call the trade. They call them the trade.
Yeah. Oh, yo, that's so cute. Oh, yes, you got it.
So
You got it.
my nephew taught me.
You
That's
got
who
it.
I watched it with. I watched it with my nephew, and so he was explaining different things to me. And he said
Mhm.
that that particular type of relationship can be very dangerous
Yep.
because if someone sees them, then a lot of times, because he even talked about it in the show, that you can't go out with me nowhere. Because if you
Yeah.
go out with me, then it may affect me. Somebody might
Yep.
try to hurt me, or you may get called out, and then you turn on me and try to hurt
And
me.
and don't forget one of the guys in the rapper's camp. Remember when he caught him outside
Yes,
and he blackmails him.
yes. He
So
does.
it's the
He
same.
says,
But
"Oh yeah,
even in the movie For Color Girls, Janet Jackson's husband, which was played by Omari Hardwick, she asked him because remember she contracted AIDS. Did you
yes,
see For Color Girls? Yep. And
absolutely."
so she asked him, are you gay? And he said, I am a man who enjoys sex with another man. He didn't classify himself or identify as gay. And so there it's so many different components, in how people identify, or even if they want to recognize their sexuality. Some people are very in denial about it, because in their head, I'm not like that, but this is how their body responds.
And that's
So,
and not just how their body responds. That's what they like, and so if that's what
yeah,
they like, that's what they seek. It's one
yep,
thing to have it in your head and maybe watch it, but when you seek out to make the connection, That's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different level. And so I am one who says all the time that people need to be honest with themselves. And when you're honest with yourself, then you can be honest with someone else. And so
Yep.
if you're honest with yourself and you say, this is what I like, this is how I get down, then be honest with your partner or someone that you're with. If
Mm-hmm.
you know the people with the polyamorous relationships that everybody like everybody and everybody doing everybody. If that's what you like, say that's what you like. So that
Yeah.
other person isn't blindsided by
Right.
you faking the funk, as they say. I know some years ago when they had all the thing about the Down Low brothers, and the guy came out on Oprah and had wrote the book, and was married to a woman, but was very actively involved with having relations with men. So and then if a man finds out that someone that he's with that he thought was a female, that looks like a female, that feels like a female, is soft like a female, all of that. And then they find out when they get down to doing the do that they're not a female and they weren't told, then they feel like they have to hurt them sometimes.
Well, we can't say that they're not a female because if they identify
Identify
as
as
a
a
female, if
female.
they're a trans woman, then they are living and identifying as so. However, that was a very uh uh what do you call that? Like a very sensitive conversation that they had on a radio show that I was listening to, and the question was posed: um, should trans women reveal that they're trans women to someone that they're dating? And so that was a very, I mean, that went on for miles, that conversation. But I wanted to talk back or get back on the course of the domestic and intimate partner violence, and why these incidents are so seldomly reported. You
Okay.
know, there are a lot of things, a lot of complexities of why people stay. And so you have and just like what is it, the wheel of control, the power wheel,
Oh, Will.
power and control wheel. So you have the definitely, you believe the threats, if there are threats that have been made, you might be in a situation and believe that this person will carry him out. If you leave me, I'll kill you. If I can't have you, nobody can have you. And that's in there. If there are children involved, I'll take your kids. I'll have the state take your kids, because what we're doing is not right, and they'll flip it on you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the finances, if this is your financial stability, or if you have no means, you have no resources. um what else? Unsupported family, which is a huge one.
Huge,
That
huge,
is a huge one.
huge
When
one.
the
Even when you
family,
talk about outing someone or telling their family, or if they were brought up in a church, they don't want their church members to know, and this person is
right?
holding that over their head. I'll tell you, I'll go tell your
Yep,
pastor. I'll
yep,
do that. And so that's
yep.
why it's so important. I think that we shine a light on it for those of us who may not be a part of the community to understand, so that like for me, I'm a therapist. I've been working with people, forever, and so I've always wanted to be a listening ear without judgment, because
Mm,
because it may not be my particular decision and my lifestyle. I can't stuff my values down your throat.
correct. However, we live in a climate where everybody does this and not none of this, and what you're doing is wrong and you shouldn't be, and you're condemning me, okay, you don't like that uh I'm married to a woman, but you go home and you beat your wife. You know what I mean? But that's okay because you're a heterosexual relationship, and what I am involved in is a sin.
Right.
Like it's this big thing. But one of the major things too, and we are working very hard to turn this around, community had no hope in their justice system, whether it was police or courts. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's like, okay, well, if I leave, where do I go? Because the resources are limited. I can't make a report because the police aren't going to take my report seriously. The courts aren't going to take it seriously. Who do I turn to? So you stay.
So let me ask you
You
a
stay.
question. I've
Yes.
seen, I don't know, I think I saw it in a movie or I saw it someplace, but is it the case that sometimes when a sexual assault happens, that sometimes the rape kit is not even done on a person who may be a part of the LGBT community?
Well, I haven't seen that movie, so I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
And it was a
but
documentary. It wasn't. It was real. And
okay.
the guy had been raped, and
Mm-hmm.
he reported, and no one did a rape kit on him, and
Mm-hmm.
and then no follow up. He kept calling the police. They would they treated him like dirt. They did not take him seriously. And I remember feeling so bad when I was
Yeah.
watching it. But it was a documentary. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just a movie. It was based off of a real situation. So I don't know if is it just an automatic thing that if there is sexual assault, whether it's male or female, that they have to get a rape kit, or it's recommended that they get the rape kit?
Yes, and it is. It is recommended. And specifically here in Detroit, that is what we're working very hard to do, to change that whole narrative that the police don't care or that you won't be taken seriously. Often I get the question of, when I report out stats and they say, well, crime seems to be increasing. It's not increasing, it's just being reported, whereas it wasn't before. And our connection with our LGBT community is probably one of the is now I'm not claiming perfection. I'm not claiming perfection, but it is probably one of the best when you're talking about uh, the relationship in a major city between law enforcement and LGBTQ.
Okay.
And a lot of people, I mean, even the people that I work with all the time, the activists and advocates here, when they go to speak in other cities and states and on different panels and different settings, and they're like, how do you get the police to listen to you? How do you have a relationship with the police? How does that work? And we have put in the work to just meet each other halfway, to just create this platform of respect and compromise. You give a little, I give a little, because somewhere we have to meet halfway, in order to get work done, in order to really create change. And I think that for so long, you had a community that felt ignored, so they
Mhm.
didn't bother. And then you had a law enforcement community that was, however they felt about the community, so they didn't involve themselves. And there's this big dissension. And it's like, how do you get these two together? How do you? And so I think that with this role being created, it helped both parties to come to the table. You know, uh, the chief created this position here, and then the mayor created a position in his office.
Oh, great.
And just before you know it, because everybody would have civil rights units and community this, community that, but specific to LGBTQ, not
Nothing.
often heard of. And it's all over. It's all over here. And it's a blessing in and of itself because there's representation. We're
Yeah.
creating
And we
a
need.
LGBT Go ahead, I'm
I
sorry.
was going to say there's some comments here. I want to let
Oh,
you
is
know
it?
that someone said,
Okay.
thank you so much for sharing your personal story and for being transparent. And that's from Crystal Sanford Brown. And then
Oh.
Tiffany Langford, she said that the power and control dynamic is a reality. And
Mm-hmm.
for those marginalized, the abuser becomes quite savvy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a question for you. The question is
Oh, wow.
right there. You can say, I'm learning how to use it. I'm still learning how to use it. One of the newest trends is for individuals to state what pronouns to which they identify. Has this been an asset or a harm in engaging someone in the LGBT community to state a pronoun identity?
Um, so I don't think it does any harm. I think for people that don't understand pronouns, it seems like so much, oh, I love you back. That's actually my brother. But what I think it does is it just adds on another layer for people that don't understand the community or often interact. They feel like, oh God, now there's a new thing, oh, there's something else we got to do. But for those who are not sure, right? Because sometimes you have people that identify as non-binary, or they're gender non-conforming, and or you might have a masculine identifying female that utilizes male pronouns. And so I don't think it does any harm even to ask people, what pronouns do you prefer? Or
Mm-hmm.
how do you identify? That's not offensive because
That's really important to know that it's not offensive because
it's not offensive.
if
It's
you're you
actually,
don't know, you want to know how to
yeah,
appropriately ask because if you don't,
exactly.
you want to ask.
And so the crazy thing is, it's crazy that we have to have training to teach people how to treat people, right? But at
But
the same time,
we've been doing that forever.
right. But at the same time, it's beneficial in communication, right? So, how many times have you come across a gentleman and you say, "Oh, no, thank you, sir, sir. That's what I call my father. My name is such and such, or Mr. Such and such." And it's like, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm thinking I'm saying the right thing by identifying you as sir, and some men are like, oh, I'm not an old man, this and this. So it's kind of the same thing in a sense, just the proper communication. And so it's funny because my wife and I were talking the other day, and now in people's signature block, you see it more often. They'll have their pronouns she, her, and hers, or him, and his, or they, them, and their. You'll see it. And it's, to me, beneficial because if you're starting an email, you would like to properly greet someone. So you might say, good morning, Miss Jackson, or good afternoon, Miss Jackson. If you have that signature block down there, and I know that you use female pronouns when I interact with you, I know to refer to you in she, her, and hers. So I don't think it's a harm. I think it's an asset, but for those who don't um, understand or are used to it, they may feel as if it's a lot.
Well,
But
I just think that it's something that is new. I know for me, at one time I was getting my hair cut, and when I started getting my hair cut, the person that was cutting my hair identified as a she. But
uh-huh.
during the course of time, she began to make a transition,
Transition. Okay.
and then one day she pulled me to the side and she says, "Doc, it's actually him," because I kept saying she and her and my
Yeah.
girl, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and I saw the change. I could
Hmm.
visually see that there was changing, but I didn't, she hadn't said nothing, and no, I didn't know.
Right.
But so she pulled me to the side. But when she pulled me to the side and told me, she went on to start to explain to me, and I stopped her. And I says, I don't need to know your business. I don't need to know why. If that is what you want me to refer to you as, that's what I'm going to do. Because I
Hmm.
also don't want people to feel like they have to tell all their business because they
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
information. No, you don't. Just
Right.
tell me and I'll act accordingly. But I know for me, I remember going to get my hair cut and saying to myself, okay, I got to remember to say him. I like had to talk myself because I was so
Mhm.
used to saying her.
Yeah.
So I had to really put it in my mind and like talk myself, say this, Sabrina, say this, Sabrina, say it this way, so that I would, because what I definitely did not want to do was to offend.
Right.
I did
I
not want
see.
to do
I see Linda Gardner has posted something. Is there a
that.
such thing as a soft stud and a hard stud? I love it. I love it. Thank you, Linda, for asking that question. So there are so many different boxes and categories that people will put themselves in. Um, there is a such thing. So to answer your question, yes. And so a soft stud is a masculine identifying female with still some femininity to her. So, she may wear, the Timberlands or the oversized clothes, right? But she may have, she might do a lightly beat face,
Yeah.
or, may have the curls or, short nails or something. So there's still some femininity about her. And a hard stud is a more masculine identifying female. So there is a such thing, Linda. Where you pick that up from? Who told you about that?
Well,
I love it.
I think it's important that one of the things that I really appreciate about your coming on and your being so transparent is that there are people who, like you say, make assumptions
Hmm.
and have never asked. And when you make assumptions, you make an ASS out of you and me. So we
Hmm.
don't want to make assumptions. We need a platform where people can ask the question and,
You
and feel comfortable asking it because they don't know.
So I think it's very important, and I do this in all of my training sessions, even in speaking engagements. I out myself and I invite people in. I want you to ask me because the last thing I want you to do is come from talking to me and go out here and do something crazy or say something crazy. I want you to be as prepared as you can be. You know what I mean? And so um, I think that transparency is imperative. Or wear panties and bra. Linda,
She put it in. I just put the click. I just clicked it.
hey, I'm not mad at it, and I'll answer that in 1 second. But I feel like even being part of the community, things are always changing, and there's always something new and different. And sometimes you can't even keep up because there's a new orientation or a new identity. I mean, if you literally Google the LGBTQ
I
glossary,
was LGBTQIA.
yeah, but it goes on further. And I mean, it's over 40 pages of just terminology.
Wow.
And it will blow your head off. You will be like, "Oh my God, what is all of this?" You will feel like you're studying for a your doctorate. Like it is a lot. Um, and it's not so much that community is expecting for you to know every single thing, but when you're engaging with someone as you would anybody, respect the person, right? You don't have to agree with what I'm doing. I don't care, because guess what, it's three things, and I'm not going to say what they are, but one is food, one is finance, and we'll say one is fun loving, right? But it's a very spicier word. Yeah. If you're not interfering with those three things,
Those three things: food, finances, and we'll call it
fun
frolic.
loving. Okay.
Frolic. Frolic.
Frolicking. I love it. Frolicking. We'll take it. But it shouldn't matter. If it's not interfering with any of that, it should not matter. So, Linda asked about bra and panties. What
Mm-hmm.
about the bra and panties? Do soft studs and hard
Yeah.
studs wear them? Well, I mean, that's depending upon the person. You can have someone that is masculine identifying, but they prefer to wear boxers, or they may prefer to wear thongs. Who knows? Sometimes. Oh Lord, my wife just shouted Victoria's Secrets. Yeah, those two. Oh, she said, "Hey, wifey." She says hi. She's hiding out in the kitchen.
No,
Um,
she can have. She can
well,
have.
she ain't gotta hide. No, she's not. She's a behind the scenes person. Um, but some masculine identifying females, they bind their breasts, to create a masculine chest. So there are a lot of different things that people do. There's a movie, I think it's called Boys Don't Cry with Hilary Swank.
Yes, I remember
That
that.
that movie will tear you to shreds emotionally because of all the things that she went through,
Yes,
even being beat and raped and trying to live in her truth and find love. Like, it's just, oh my god, it's study material for someone who's trying to understand. But Tiffany, what about DV within families of LGBTQ plus? So I don't know, what do you mean, what about DV within the families?
I'm sure there's domestic violence within families of a LGBTQ. And I don't know if she means families like your birth family or the families that people create. Like when you look at Pose, when you look, Pose talks about being a family or having a house. And is there
The
domestic
chosen
violence?
family.
Yes. Is there or can there be domestic violence within those families as well?
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, wherever there are people, there is a chance of domestic violence, and
Yes.
that's just
Yes, it is.
period.
It is. And so let me ask this question because this is one of the things that I hear all the time, especially from officers, is that domestic violence runs are the runs that they dread the most because those are the ones that sometimes become violent. Um,
So, so domestic violence runs, and specific to the LGBTQ community, a lot of people would guess that hate crimes are the highest percentage of crimes within the community, when in fact it is domestic and intimate partner violence. Um, and those are the most dangerous. I had a run, and I get emotional when I talk about it because I could not be sitting here right now. Now, this didn't involve an LGBTQ member, but it just goes to show you how DV runs go. We got to run. We got to the house. The male was sitting in the living room in the chair smoking a cigarette. The female was running rampant through the house, cussing and fussing and hollering. I was working with the male partner. And so uh, I said, well, I don't think she's going to respond to me. So I'll talk with him, you talk with her. And so as we're conducting our interview, I kept looking, because you never want to lose sight of your partner. And I kept looking for him, and he was down the hall because she kept walking. She was just stomping throughout the house, and the house was torn up. And so the male says to me, and he's sitting there with scratches. He's got blood on his t-shirt, like she tore him up, right? And people say, "Oh, y'all always take the male." No, you take the aggressor. But he said, "Can you please not arrest her?" Because as soon as we came in, I was like, "Oh, she's going." You could see it. You knew she was the aggressor. And
mhm.
so he said, "Can you please not take her? That's my kid's mom. I don't want her to go to jail. She just tripping because I went and had a beer after work, this and this." And I'm like, I can't explain this to my boss, that you sitting here clearly like a tiger just got a hold of you. And she running around here like the Tasmanian devil, like, but I go on to say that because I said, well, this is what we'll do. And so I stand him up and I'm patting him down. I go to pull out my handcuffs and stuff happens like that. Okay. I go to
Mhm.
pull out my handcuffs, and no sooner than she hears me pull them out, she comes around the corner with a shotgun. Yeah. My partner at the time froze. So she gets close up on me. I fall back. She pulls the trigger. The firing pin didn't work in that
Oh,
weapon. And so when we talk about domestic violence, this lady called the police. As soon as we got there, she was like, he's got warrants, he sells weed, he does this, that, and the third. I want him out of my house. She's ranting and raving about this. And then you go to make the arrest and the person turns on you.
right.
Those are the most violent and unpredictable situations that officers can go into, because
Wow.
you just don't know. You cannot you you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You don't know if it's going to be them, you don't know. And it's very scary. Um but Tiffany, what are the stats? What are the stats on what?
The DV in the LGBT community, domestic
So
violence within the LGBTQ plus community.
well, specifically for Detroit, at the top of the show, I mentioned since 2018, reported out, we have had 53 domestic violence incidents. Of those, 28 involved weapons, which would make it a felony, a felonious assault. Um, yeah, so that's what we have currently from 2018 that has been reported. Now, unreported crimes, because I've had people even call me or message me and they say, well, this happened, but I don't want to make a report. I just want to know, how can I get her some help? How can I get him some help? Because they might be in that situation when we talked about those complexities of why people stay. So sometimes I get those kind of um, questions. But as of right now, uh, the margin to me um, is high because one is too many, and then we haven't even went to the families, our parents and siblings turning on their children and siblings.
You
What?
know,
So what's?
she's asking like the domestic violence for when a family member comes out and then they get abused or beat up on
Yeah.
because
So
yeah.
that happens a lot with the youth, the LGBT youth. For those that their parents find out, or they just decide, hey, I'm gonna live in my truth. Um, that happens often, and it sucks so bad because now this kid gets stuck in the system because of being removed from the house from the abusive uh, situation, and it's, oh gosh, it just kind of goes downhill. But yes, it does occur more often than we think. uh, it is becoming, it's not as taboo as it once was. Before it was like, the gay guys did hair, or was certain professions and this and that, and you might have had one gay guy that was on a cheer team or something. Just all of those stereotypical things.
Yeah, the creative, the dancer,
Right.
the choir
But
director,
right.
um,
But
stuff.
now it's not as taboo as it once was, but there are still um households that are not tolerating that. And the crazy thing is, a parent will love their child and will be more concerned with what everyone else will think rather than accept their kid for who they are. And so,
They will. I know. I've had families that I've worked with where the family member, the parent feels like it's something that they did, that
Yeah.
is their fault. And so
Mhm.
they are blaming themselves. And so because they are in this negative space with themselves, they are negative to uh, the child, and especially to the child's. I have a really close family friend that two women, they're getting married, and one of the women's mothers is not, won't talk to the other person. And so when I
Oh.
had a conversation with the mother, I just said, let me be clear to you that they are going to get married,
Mhm.
and it's legal for them
Mm.
to get married. So your daughter has some health challenges and she's going to be in the hospital. The only person that they are going to talk to is her wife.
Mhm.
That that's just how that's gonna go. And so, and if you're mean to this woman who's caring for your daughter and who loves your daughter, and you don't talk to her, you treat her any kind of way, what would make you think she want to call you and tell you anything and have to deal with you? Because you
Yeah. Yeah.
have been
Yeah.
trying to help
Yeah.
besides that. And it's amazing how I know it's people that accept same-sex relationships from other people,
Yeah.
support them, go to they
Oh,
stuff,
absolutely.
hang out, give
Yeah.
baby showers, all of that.
'Cause it
But
ain't hit
their own
home.
family,
Mhm.
oh no, I can't do it. I can't do it.
You know what? I'll say this. I uh my mother, she just had back surgery, but she is one of my biggest supporters. And whenever I can take her to a function or have her attend, I want her there because I want for her to talk and interact with the other parents so they can know it's okay. You know, personally, um, I was never molested. I wasn't raped. I didn't suffer any sexual assault. I just literally came to terms with myself that I am attracted to women and that's what I prefer. I don't hate men, but when I go to sleep at night, it's my wife I'm laying next to, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay with that. Both of our families are very supportive of us and love us just as much as their own, if I can say that. My siblings are tight knit. With we just have this blended family that works, and we'll go to the ends of the earth for the other. And that's a blessing in and of itself. Where I had a friend, a very good friend of mine, who was cast out of her home. I'm talking about totally disowned, could not bring her mate to the house. And if she didn't have a child, she probably wouldn't even be allowed in her parents' home. But because they love her son, they're like, well, we got to deal with you. And
Wow.
so, yeah, and you would think by now we would be past that, like, okay, come on, it's on every TV show, it's built into everything now, like, get over it. No, and it's still a hard pill for people to swallow, specifically men. Specifically men. They are really uh I'm not going to say that's not the word I want to use. They're not receptive at all to, no, I'll say this, they're more receptive to their son identifying as gay. However, if their son then decides to transition, that goes a whole nother way. And it's really hard because a man looks at his son, this is my legacy. This is my bloodline.
What's going to carry my
Yep.
name?
And
Yes, we're
so,
going to have babies, and we're going
yeah.
to, yeah, yeah.
And so
And
when
I
they think,
remember
oh,
in the show polls, when the girl was killed. She was killed in the hotel room, and then her parents, who hadn't seen
Candy.
her,
Yep.
yes, when her
Mhm.
parents came, and one of the things that the mother said is that she was grieving the loss of her son
Mhm.
because she raised a son, and
Yeah.
then for the son to become a. So I thought that was very poignant because I think that sometimes, of course, people want their feelings and what
Hmm.
they want recognized and accepted, but sometimes the other person's point of view is not recognized or accepted. So, as a person who does work with families, I definitely talk about stopping sometimes and looking at it from the other person's point of view
Yeah.
to empathy. To
Yeah.
and I think that all of us really have to use empathy because that is the number one skill necessary to resolving conflict. And our country right now is in a lot of conflict in a
Oh
lot of
God.
different
Yeah.
places. Oh my God. But oh my God. But I think that, when we talk about diversity, when we talk about inclusion, when we talk about working and understanding differences, we just have to be open to
Yeah.
uh, being coached, to being informed. If we stay cut off, how do you learn? How do you get better? I'm better because
Exactly.
of the relationships that I forge with people who may not be like myself. That's how I grow. That's how I learn about different things in the world.
Hmm.
And the world is a much bigger place than where I stay.
Yeah. You know
I'm
what?
a little space.
And then too, I always think about the transition of everything. Am I gonna sit here and let everything just pass me by? Because it's the world, everything is gonna keep moving.
Moving.
Whether you move with it or you sit still, you can either be stuck or you can come along for the ride. And it's important, and then we have, like, I don't have any children, but I have two beautiful nieces, that look up to me, and a lot of children, in my life. And, the first thing, they're like, oh, you're a police officer. And, they're excited about that. And then, my niece, and it was really a shocking moment because she asked me, and she's very, very smart and very intuitive. Well, now she's 8,
Okay. Okay.
but I think she was 3, maybe 4, but I really think 3. And she saw a picture in our house of me, and she calls me Mushu. And my wife's name is Pat, but she calls her Auntie Bat. And so she says, is Auntie Bat like my dad? And I'm like, is this kid putting together the relationship, right? And so I really didn't know how to answer that. One, because that wasn't the conversation to have. I would prefer for my sister and her husband to have that conversation with her. But she loves us both the same. So it doesn't matter to her. But this is what she knows. You know what I mean? It's not as
Because
if,
it's a model. I always think people navigate the world based on how they're socialized. And so
mhm,
socialized is what you're exposed to. So when you're exposed, so like when people are exposed to same-sex couples and that's their norm, it's no big deal to them. But if
right.
you've not been exposed, you've been told in church that you're going to hell if you do, all that kind of stuff, then
Mhm.
it becomes a question for you. And then it becomes, what is this a right thing? And so I tell people all the time, because I hear this. I hear people say, well, you don't want children raised by same sex couples because they may decide to be, that may make them,
Yeah,
they make them gay. Well, no, because if we use that logic, then all heterosexual families would create heterosexual people, and they don't. So we can't
exactly.
use that logic. That logic just doesn't make sense. It's not logical. So no, you can't look at it and decide, oh yeah, I'm just gonna be that. No, no, no.
Yeah. I even tell people, hey, if you just so happen to talk to me, I can promise no gay will get on you. It's not contagious,
It's not contagious. Not gonna rub off. Like if you touch all this chocolate, you're not gonna wake up chocolate because you touch
Yeah, yeah.
chocolate. I'm just saying. No. So I want to thank you. We are all out of time. Our hour is gone.
Oh, wow. I didn't even realize it.
Hour is gone, but I really, really appreciate your coming on, and I really appreciate more so than you giving the facts and your personal experience, and that you are transparent, because I think that sometimes it's important for people to see the realness and just who we are as people. And so you have a open door policy. If you have something that you want to talk
Oh, thank
about,
you.
if you want to come back, any time, you are welcome here with Dr. Sabrina.
Thank
And
you
we need
so
to do
much.
something together. We need to do something together. I think we need to
I'm
plan
ready.
something.
Just call me. I'm ready.
We need to do some training together. We need to do something that helps
Let's
the
do
people.
it. That's right. We need to create some more resources for our community so that when they fall victim to this stuff, it's not oh, we don't have anything for you.
I was gonna ask, are there like uh domestic violence shelters, things of that nature for the LGBTQ community?
Specific to the community,
Yes.
very, very, very few, like very few in the means of maybe two or three in the state of Michigan. However, we do have certain organizations that will assist, but it's for very short term. Um, and if anyone needs to know more about that, I see you've got my information scrolling at the
Yes,
bottom, so they
I
can
do.
definitely reach out to me, and I can connect them with the right person. But the resources are very limited, and we need to work on something to create some space for our folks, our LGBTQ plus folks.
I am down with helping with that. And then also I created a model called Essential Colors, which is a personality assessment model. And then I have a piece called Essential Love Styles, which is for couples. And I have a piece for same-sex couples. So
Oh wow.
yes, and it's fun because it's very fun and engaging, but it's not just a written test that you just take and you find out your type. Oh no, this is a coloring test. So
Oh,
you
interesting.
color your earth angel. I call your mate your earth angel, your female angel,
Okay.
and your wife would color her female angel. And when you finish, you can hold up your couple and I can tell you about your relationship, sight unseen.
Oh, all right. Go ahead and send that over to me so we can do it. That's some good homework.
Yes, my girlfriends over at Good Cakes and Bakes, they're very good friends of mine, and we did.
Yes, meet me in April.
Yes,
They're good
yes.
friends. So my wife has been friends with Michelle for over 30 years.
Wow. So
Yep.
yes, I've done before they've upgraded and renovated their space. We had
Yes.
one of our Essential Love Styles events there, and they participated and they loved it. And it was so funny because April kept saying, "That's why I don't like that about her." Now I understand. But it's a way to help people understand what you're working with. Because I always say, if you know what you're working with, then you know how to work it.
Hey, I love it. Okay, we'll take it.
Okay,
Okay.
and there's some people here. They said that they are. They said there is a shelter in Ferndale for the LGBTQ community.
Yes, I didn't say there wasn't. I just said the resources are very few.
Limited. They limited.
Very, very few.
Pamper Brown says that she hopes that you are open to professional development or speaking engagements outside of the Detroit Police Department because she's going to be reaching out to you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I travel all over, so I welcome it.
All over. She travels
That's
all
right.
over.
If you send for me, I'm on the way.
I love it. Well, I want you to enjoy your evening. Thank you so much. This information will be up on my YouTube page if people want to go back and see it, and it'll be there. And then I'll make sure I'll send you the link so you can post it or
Yes,
send it
because
to
I've
people.
been getting text messages. The link doesn't work. I can't get on. I can't see it. I'm like, oh gosh. Okay, we'll try and fix that. So,
Well,
okay,
we're gonna send it to them. We'll send it to them.
okay,
As soon as we're done, I'll send it to you, and you can send it to your people.
okay,
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All righty.
Have a good night.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.
Okay, bye bye.